Of course, all going toward this immunity to COVID-19. That's what we want, right? Between those who have survived a case of it and those who have gotten the vaccine, if those numbers continue to climb, then we should reach that immunity threshold to end this pandemic, hopefully eventually and hopefully sooner rather than later. And getting the vaccine might make some believe they are now immune to it. You can throw caution in the wind, not have to worry about it anymore, but I hate to break it to you, it's not entirely the case. For example, the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, they have a 94-95% effective rate for fighting against the virus. And that sounds great, but we've been warned for some that just means it will limit the severity of it. And what about how the efficacy stacks up against, say, COVID variants? We're learning maybe not very well at all, and we're seeing proof of that in Idaho. Katya Stepovic found out more about these vaccine breakthrough cases where people who get fully vaccinated and more than 2 weeks later get a case of COVID.
What we're most interested in are any suspect vaccine breakthrough cases, which would indicate that you may have a variant that has the ability to evade immune response.
When the state lab is sequencing for COVID variants or reinfection cases, Dr. Christopher Ball with the state laboratory says vaccine breakthrough cases are also something the state looks for. That is when someone contracts COVID-19 or a variant even after getting fully vaccinated.
Those are the folks that we're definitely wanting to get those samples in to see if there's some sort of variant in the community that has shown reduced efficacy with the vaccine.
And according to Dr. Jeppesen, director of Idaho Health and Welfare, the statewide number is low.
We've always expected that there would be a small number of people who got vaccinated that would still contract COVID. That was the case in the clinical trials. Again, a very small number, and that's certainly been the case here in Idaho. But we must emphasize it's a very small number, certainly under 100.
St. Alphonsus has had 3 cases of vaccine breakthroughs. Dr. Patrice Burgess, executive medical director at St. Al's, says all 3 patients were fully vaccinated and still contracted either COVID-19 or a variant.
It's not surprising that we're seeing a few cases of people that have been vaccinated but still turn up positive. But fortunately, the ones I'm aware of have all been very mild cases, which is what you would expect.
Dr. Burgess says 2 patients were female and 1 was a male, all younger than 65 and in relatively good health.
That's your worst fear, is you roll out this miraculous vaccine and then it becomes less effective.
But Dr. Burgess says this is not unusual because no vaccine had yet to be 100% effective against the virus and all possible variants.
The cases we've seen are very small and the disease that the illness has been very mild. So we still feel like these vaccines are doing a great job at keeping people out of the hospital and keeping people from getting seriously ill. But that is your fear, that if the virus continues to have more and more mutations or variants, which we know is what viruses do, that at some point it could become a problem. And so the biggest defense against that is to reduce the spread now before that happens.
And the good news, in addition to vaccine breakthrough cases being low in Idaho,
the mRNA technology is very amenable to adjusting for variants, so it's possible we might see, we've talked about this before, maybe a booster, maybe it's like the flu shot, maybe there's an annual type of adjustment.
Because no vaccine makes anyone invincible.
It's very similar to the flu shot. You know, the annual flu shot, what they do is they look at the prior season and what flu strains were prevalent, and then that's how they make the new flu shot for the next season. And it's usually pretty good, it's not perfect, and that's the same process.
Now, Jeppesen says other countries that are further ahead of us, they're also seeing about 1% of their population with these vaccine breakthrough cases. So again, he says he is confident and grateful that hopefully Idaho's numbers will remain low as well. Brian?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it's medical science. These anomalies are expected, and 94 to 95% still pretty darn effective. Thank you, Katya.